In 2008, Texas completed a $2.8 billion expansion to create the widest highway in the world. 26 lanes of concrete designed to solve Houston's traffic problem once and for all. But by 2014, commute times had increased by over 50%. The miracle highway had made traffic worse. And here's the strange part. This wasn't the first time cities in Texas have been making decisions like this for decades. And outcomes haven't always been the best. The average Texan spends $12,000 a year just to get around their own city. These cities also flood during storms and are among the deadliest places in America to be a pedestrian. But somehow, the rest of America saw these results and still copied them. The way Texas was built became a blueprint that informed pretty much how the country grows today. So, what went wrong in Texas? And why did the rest of America follow the same path? Houston is the largest city in the United States without zoning laws. When most cities were creating rules about what could be built where, Houston said no voters rejected zoning 3 separate times, most recently in 1993. On paper, this sounded like freedom. No government telling property owners what they can do. Build whatever you want, wherever you want. Without zoning, the city became a free-for-all. You could theoretically build a chemical plant next to houses or a strip club next to a school. Between the 1930s and 1978, 82% of Houston's trash ended up in primarily black neighborhoods. Today, lower-income communities still struggle to stop industrial facilities from being built next door. But here's where it gets interesting. Houston didn't actually create freedom. Wealthy neighborhoods found a workaround called deed restrictions, private rules that residents write to control their area. Houston is one of the only cities where the government enforces these private restrictions. Affluent areas use them to keep out apartments and maintain low density, getting the benefits of zoning without calling it zoning. These restrictions were historically used to keep people of color out of white neighborhoods during desegregation. So the city ended up with 2 systems. Wealthy areas got protection through expensive lawyers. Everyone else got industrial facilities and chaos. The result was a city sprawling across 670 square miles with the population density of a rural farm. But the lack of rules was only the beginning. Because once you build a city that spreads out, you face a new problem. How do people get around? And that's where Texas made its second big decision, one that would cost billions and somehow make everything worse. Remember that widest highway in the world? The Katy Freeway expansion cost $2.8 billion, based on a promise that seemed perfectly logical at the time. Add more lanes, traffic flows better, and commutes get faster. Simple math that everyone could understand. The state bet billions on that promise. However, just a few years after completion, commute times went up. The new lanes filled immediately, and congestion returned to exactly where it started. Drivers who had been avoiding the route came flooding back. Commuters who lived closer to work felt comfortable moving farther into the suburbs. This phenomenon is called induced demand, and once you understand it, you see it everywhere. When you make driving easier, more people drive. The new capacity attracts exactly enough traffic to fill itself back up. But Texas keeps building anyway. The Texas Department of Transportation sees itself as a highway builder. Its funding comes from gas taxes, often restricted to highway projects only. Even when cities want something different, the state pushes highways. Austin is fighting this right now. Local residents want rail and walkable neighborhoods, while the state wants to expand Interstate 35 through the heart of the city. Same pattern, same promises, same inevitable result. This highway obsession created something even more dangerous than traffic. When you design every street for speed and volume, you turn the simple act of walking into a life-threatening activity. Texas streets are designed against pedestrians. Walking in Texas cities means crossing streets that are 6 to 8 lanes wide, exposed to traffic for nearly half a minute at a time. Highway interchanges create barriers so massive that walking underneath requires 10-minute detours. Sidewalks suddenly end in the middle of blocks, and intersections have no crosswalks. The distances between destinations stretch so far that even wanting to walk becomes unreasonable. Compare this to cities designed differently. Auto-dependent cities average 10 to 20 traffic deaths per 100,000 residents. Compact cities with strong transit like Tokyo and Paris average 1.5 to 3 deaths. The car-dependent model kills at a rate 3 to 10 times higher. Every wide street, every missing crosswalk, every highway expansion reinforces the same priorities. But the danger is indicative of a larger failure. Even though Texas cities force people to drive everywhere, they never built the alternative for people who can't afford to drive, or simply don't want to. Here's where all these decisions compound. Houston sprawls across 670 square miles, but has only 50 miles of rail. The metro system covers 22 miles in a city spanning more than 9,000 square miles. For context, that's like having a Band-Aid for a gunshot wound. This creates transit deserts, areas where people need public transportation but have almost no access. Houston has the highest percentage of transit-dependent residents among major Texas cities. These are people who can't afford cars or can't drive. But the system serves only a fraction of their needs. The deserts concentrate in lower-income southern neighborhoods like Sharpstown and Chinatown, which leads to people who need transit having the least access. They're forced to drive out of necessity, spending money they don't have on cars they can't afford. San Antonio shows this problem even more clearly. It's the only major Texas city with no rail service whatsoever. Despite having the second largest transit-dependent population, it registers the most transit deserts. People who can't drive face impossible choices about where to live and work. Even Dallas, with 93 miles of track, making it the largest light rail system in the country, still has significant transit deserts clustering around highway interchanges. The issue is that cities built to sprawl outward can't be served by transit. You can't run frequent buses to neighborhoods where houses spread far apart. You can't justify rail when destinations sit miles apart across parking lots and highways. But this raises an obvious question. If the Texas model creates all these problems, why did it spread? To understand that, you need to see what cities that made different choices actually look like. Tokyo is one of the wealthiest cities on Earth. Households there average just 0.32 cars. Many families don't own one at all because they don't need it. Meanwhile, in Houston, 95% of trips happen by car. Households average 2 or 3 vehicles because the city makes them mandatory. American cities have 70% higher car use than Australian or Canadian cities, and 7.5 times higher than wealthy Asian cities. Design determines these outcomes. Tokyo grew up and became dense. Texas cities grew out and sprawled. When destinations sit closer together, walking works. When enough people live along a corridor, transit becomes viable. Higher density consistently means lower car use. The economic difference is enormous. Houston spends 12 to 13% of city wealth on passenger transportation. Transit-oriented cities spend around 5%. That gap represents billions that could go to schools, parks, housing, or simply stay in people's pockets instead of going to car payments and gas. Yet even in America, some cities chose differently. Portland invested in light rail and created boundaries to prevent sprawl. The core remains walkable. You can run errands without driving. Transit connects destinations. Life doesn't require highway speeds to reach a coffee shop. These were deliberate policy decisions that went a different direction than Texas, which makes the question even more puzzling. If the Texas model has all these problems, if the alternatives work better and cost less, why did America copy Texas instead of Portland or Tokyo? The sprawling car-centric pattern that defines Houston and Dallas became the dominant model for American city building after World War II. Texas built cities this way for itself and showed the rest of America how to do it. America decided this was the future. The United States leads the world in automobile dependence. With few exceptions, American cities prioritize cars over everything else. The vision of the American dream accelerated this process. Owning a house, 2 cars, and appliances became the aspiration. Dense, walkable cities came to be seen as outdated and undesirable. Cars made sprawl economically possible by reducing transport costs. But technology alone didn't force this outcome. Policy choices amplified it. Many cities use zoning to keep new housing away from their centers. This raises property values, but pushes new development farther and farther out. Houston is proof that sprawl happens even without strict zoning, but other cities made it worse with their restrictions. Here's the problem. When you build neighborhoods far apart, you need more of everything. More roads, more water pipes, more power lines, more sewers. It's like stretching a pizza across a table instead of keeping it on one plate. Everything costs more because it has to reach farther. American sprawl makes infrastructure cost 50% more per person. Taxes leave older neighborhoods to help pay for new subdivisions on the edge. The damage goes beyond roads and pipes. Sprawl means longer commutes, nearly an hour each way for most Americans. All that sitting in isolation contributes to obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Car crashes kill more teenagers than anything else. Texas built the most extreme version of this pattern, but it became normal across America. The weak regulations, the highway expansions, the missing transit, the endless subdivisions spreading outward. Texas built cities around a simple idea that growth and freedom meant spreading outward without limits. No zoning to restrict development. Endless highways to move people faster. Suburbs stretching as far as land allowed. It seemed like progress at the time. The rest of America saw that growth and wanted it too. City after city adopted the same approach. Build wide, build far, build fast. For decades, this felt like winning. More land developed, more houses built, more highways paved. But that growth came with a price. We built cities that cost more to maintain than they generate in taxes. That forces families to spend thousands on transportation instead of education or savings. The infrastructure is aging now, and the bill is coming due. The question facing American cities today is whether we keep building the Texas way, knowing what it costs, or whether we're finally ready to build something different, because the model we copied is becoming unsustainable. And cities across America are starting to realize that the blueprint they followed might need to be redrawn.